The vast central archives of the Galactic Council stretched for miles beneath the crystalline spires of Nexus Prime. Here, among dusty data crystals and forgotten memory cores, Archivist Nemo hunched over his workstation, his four fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Access denied. The system chimed for the third time. Nemo's scaled skin flushed a deep blue with frustration. These restricted files about the ancient species called humans had become his obsession over the past cycle. Every reference was fragmentary, every mention sealed under the highest security protocols. Override. Authorization Nemo Lambda 7, he muttered. The screen flickered, then displayed a corrupted image. Bipedal creatures standing amid ruins. The attached text was clear enough to send a chill through his spine. Their determination in battle bordered on madness. When cornered, humans did not surrender. They escalated beyond reason. The final conflict scorched 300 worlds before they vanished. Let this record serve as warning should they ever return. The file abruptly terminated as a priority alert flashed across all screens in the archive. Nemo minimized his research and opened the bulletin. Anomalous signals detected in Sector 17B, high energy readings consistent with massive hyperspace disturbance. All nearest units advised to maintain distance and report activity. Nemo's heart raced. Sector 17B bordered the Great Void, the vast empty region where legend claimed the human worlds once existed before their disappearance 50,000 years ago. Commander Thale stood on the bridge of the reconnaissance vessel Seeker, his tall, slender form reflected in the view screen as he studied the sensor readings. His species, the Frail, were known for their logical minds and steady nerves, both currently being tested. Report confirmed, Commander, his first officer said. Council orders us to investigate the anomaly. Thale's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of deep thought among his kind. The Council believes these signals might relate to the human legends. They haven't said directly, but why else send us to such an isolated sector? Thale made a dismissive gesture with his long arm. Myths and fragments. I've read the restricted files. If humans were as advanced and dangerous as claimed, where have they been for 50 millennia? Species don't simply vanish. Unless they destroyed themselves, offered the science officer from her station. The record suggests their final war was catastrophic. Or unless they left, countered the first officer. The void has never been properly explored. What if they simply withdrew? Thale turned back to the view screen. Set course for the anomaly. Maximum sensor range. Minimal energy signature. If something's out there, we observe only. No contact without direct Council authorization. As the Seeker slipped into hyperspace, Thale couldn't shake an unsettling feeling. Throughout his career, he had encountered 27 spacefaring species, all cataloged and understood. None had inspired the kind of warnings attached to humans, warnings that seemed excessive for a species that had apparently destroyed itself ages ago. 3 days later, Thale stared at the sensor display in stunned silence. Magnify, he ordered, his voice barely audible. The screen zoomed in on the massive object that had appeared at the edge of Sector 17B. It was unmistakably a ship, but unlike any vessel in the Council records. Its hull gleamed with a dark metallic sheen, marked with unfamiliar symbols. Size estimate? Thale asked. 8 kilometers in length, Commander, the science officer replied, her voice shaking. And it's not alone. The sensors adjusted, revealing dozens, then hundreds, of similar vessels emerging from what appeared to be a stable wormhole, a fleet larger than any assembled in known space for millennia. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, in perfect Council standard. Thale steadied himself. Put it through. A face appeared on screen. Bipedal, with bare skin except for patches of hair, just as the ancient records described. When it spoke, its voice was deep but clear. Greetings. I am Admiral James Kane of the United Earth Fleet. Humanity has returned to the stars. We come in peace, but we are prepared for anything. We request dialogue with the Galactic Council. Thale felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The legends were real. Humanity had returned. Commander Thale maintained his composure as the human face filled the view screen. His training had prepared him for many situations, but not for the return of a supposedly extinct species from ancient warnings. This is Commander Thale of the Galactic Council vessel Seeker. Your emergence is unexpected, Admiral Kane. The human's expression changed slightly. What Thale would later learn was a smile. I imagine so. It's been a long time since our people interacted with the galactic community. Thale chose his next words carefully. The Council must be informed of your arrival. Would you permit a direct communication link? Of course, Kane replied. But first, I suggest a more personal meeting. My ship can dock with yours, or we can send a shuttle. Your choice. After brief consultation with his officers, Thale agreed to receive a human shuttle. His security chief objected strongly, but curiosity overcame caution. Prepare the main docking bay, Thale ordered, and alert the Council immediately. The human shuttle was small but elegant, with lines that suggested both speed and power. When its door opened, 4 humans emerged, 3 males and 1 female, by Thale's quick study of their dimorphism. They wore simple gray uniforms without visible weapons, though Thale's scanners detected energy signatures unlike any known technology. Admiral Kane stepped forward first. He stood shorter than Thale, but moved with confident grace that suggested comfort even in the slightly lower gravity of the Seeker. Thank you for receiving us, Commander, Kane said, extending a hand. Thale had studied the gesture in historical files during the brief preparation time. He carefully touched his long fingers to the human's hand, noting its warmth and firmness. Welcome aboard the Seeker, Admiral. These are my senior officers. After introductions, they moved to the conference room. The humans seemed remarkably at ease, showing neither fear nor aggression despite being vastly outnumbered on an alien vessel. You must have questions, Kane began once they were seated. Many, Thale admitted. Our records of humanity are fragmented. They speak of a great conflict, after which your species vanished. That was approximately 50,000 years ago. Kane nodded. Yes, though our records call it 48,600 years since the Exodus. After the war with the Void Collective, our remaining populations retreated to a hidden star system beyond the reaches of what you now call the Void. We've been rebuilding, watching, and waiting. Watching. Thale's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. We maintained observation posts at the edges of populated space. Non-interference was our primary directive until we determined it was safe to return. The science officer, Lena, leaned forward. Your technology appears far beyond current council standards. The female human, introduced as Director Brandt of their science division, smiled. We've had nearly 50 millennia of isolated development. When survival is your only focus, innovation accelerates. Thale noticed how the humans exchanged quick glances before each answer, as if confirming some unspoken strategy. Our records suggest humanity was feared, Thale said bluntly. The warnings describe a species of extreme determination and potential violence. Kane's expression hardened slightly. History is written by those who remain. The Void Collective nearly exterminated us. We fought back with everything we had. Some call our methods extreme, but facing extinction leaves little room for half measures. The Void Collective? Thale asked. Our records mention no such entity. A shadow passed over Kane's face. Interesting. Very interesting that they've been erased from your history. The atmosphere in the room changed subtly. Thale felt a new tension as Kane tapped something on his wrist device. Commander, we've just transmitted a data package to your ship. It contains our historical records of the conflict and our reasons for returning now. Kane looked directly at Thale. Review it carefully. We believe elements of the Void Collective have re-emerged in your galaxy. Are you suggesting a current threat? Thale asked, alarm growing. "We're suggesting," Kane said carefully, "that the legend's warning about humanity might have been misunderstood. Perhaps we weren't the danger your ancestors feared." As the meeting concluded, Thale watched the humans return to their shuttle. They moved with purpose and coordination that spoke of military precision beneath their diplomatic veneer. The old warning suddenly seemed incomplete, not wrong, but missing crucial context about who humanity had been fighting and why they had returned. The Grand Council chamber hummed with tension. Representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations sat in rising tiers around the central speaking platform, where Admiral Kane now stood, seemingly untroubled by the hundreds of alien eyes fixed upon him. "The human delegation thanks you for this audience," Kane said, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. "We seek to rejoin the galactic community after our long absence." High Counselor Vrax, an ancient being with translucent skin that revealed pulsing organs beneath, leaned forward on his gravity throne. "Your absence, as you call it, followed the most destructive war in recorded history," Vrax stated. "Many worlds still bear scars from that time." Kane nodded respectfully. "We understand your concerns. However, the data package we provided explains the true nature of that conflict. The Void Collective was the aggressor, and we believe they have returned." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Commander Thale, seated in the observer section, watched the proceedings with growing unease. He had reviewed the human records, fragmentary data showing a horrifying enemy that consumed entire worlds, leaving nothing but empty husks behind. "These claims are convenient," said Counselor Mech of the Tarvos Federation, his metallic exoskeleton clicking as he spoke. "You return after 50 millennia with warnings of an enemy no one remembers, asking for alliance and integration." Kane's expression remained calm. "We come seeking neither charity nor blind trust. We offer trade, technology exchange, and mutual defense. Judge us by our actions moving forward." The debate continued for hours, with the Council ultimately deciding to allow limited human presence in Council space while investigating their claims. 4 human ships would remain at Nexus Prime, while the rest of their fleet would withdraw to the border systems. As the session ended, Thale found himself approached by a human officer who had stood silently behind Kane throughout the proceedings. "Commander Thale," she said, "I'm Captain Elara Reed of the scout vessel Pathfinder. I've been assigned as liaison to your ship for the coming mission." Thale's inner eyelids blinked in surprise. "What mission?" "The one the Council will be ordering within the hour," Reed replied with a small smile. "We're to investigate unusual activity in the Darthos system. My ship will accompany yours." 3 days later, Thale stood on the bridge of the Seeker, watching the sleek human vessel Pathfinder maintain perfect formation alongside them, despite the turbulent conditions of hyperspace. "Their navigational systems are remarkable," Lena noted. "They're compensating for spatial distortions we can barely detect." Thale nodded absently, his attention on the upcoming mission. The Darthos system was a minor trading hub on the Outer Rim, recently reporting communication disruptions and missing ships. "Exiting hyperspace in 3, 2, 1, announced the pilot. The swirling tunnel of hyperspace collapsed into normal space, revealing chaos. A massive space battle was underway. 3 Council trading vessels were under attack by what appeared to be a dozen pirate ships. The traders were clearly outmatched, their shields failing. "Battle stations," Thale ordered. "Contact those pirate vessels," and he never finished the command. The Pathfinder surged forward at impossible speed, weapons systems activating. "Captain Reed, wait," Thale called over the comm. "Council protocol requires negotiation before." "Those aren't pirates." Reed's voice cut through, unusually tense. "Look at their energy signatures." Thale turned to his science officer, who was staring at her readings in horror. "She's right," Lena whispered. "Those ships are putting out void radiation, just like in the human records." Before Thale could respond, the Pathfinder opened fire. What followed was unlike any combat Thale had witnessed in his career. The human vessel moved with precision that seemed to predict the enemy's maneuvers, striking with weapons that cut through advanced shields like they were mist. Within minutes, 3 enemy vessels were disabled, and the rest retreated into hyperspace. "Seeker, we need you to evacuate the trading vessels," Reed transmitted. "Their life support is critical. We're pursuing the retreating ships." "Captain Reed, Council protocols strictly forbid." "Those weren't pirates," Reed interrupted again. "Those were Void Scouts. If we don't track them, they'll return with more forces. Your ship isn't equipped for what's coming." As the Pathfinder disappeared into hyperspace, Thale stared at the disabled enemy vessels. Council salvage teams would examine them, but he already suspected what they would find. Proof that the humans had been right. The legends had spoken of humanity as a species to fear. Now Thale understood why. Not because they were inherently violent, but because when they fought, they did so with terrifying efficiency. And against the enemy they claimed had returned. Perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Captain Reed's face appeared on the Seeker's view screen 3 days after the battle at Darthos. Her usually composed features showed signs of strain, with dark circles under her eyes. "Commander Thale, we've tracked the enemy vessels to their base in the Voron Nebula," she reported. "What we found, you need to see this." Hours later, Thale stood in the Council's secure briefing chamber alongside Admiral Kane and Captain Reed. On the central display floated images that made even the most stoic Council members shift uneasily. "This facility was hidden inside an asteroid," Reed explained, gesturing to the holographic projection. "It's a conversion center. The missing ships and crews weren't destroyed. They were being transformed." The images showed horrifying scenes. Captured aliens connected to strange machinery, their bodies gradually being altered, implants fusing with organic tissue while their eyes turned completely black. "The Void Collective doesn't conquer in the traditional sense," Admiral Kane explained. "They assimilate. They don't want territory. They want bodies, minds, and resources to expand their collective consciousness." High Counselor Vrax's skin had paled to near transparency. "If what you show us is genuine, why have we never encountered this threat before?" "You have," said a new human who entered the chamber. "Director Jack Wilson, Human Intelligence Division." He introduced himself with a quick nod. "We've analyzed Council records of unexplained incidents over the past 2 centuries. Observe." Wilson activated a holomap of Council space. Red dots appeared, spreading slowly like a disease across the galaxy. Each red marker represents an incident matching Void Collective patterns. Unusual behavior changes, unexplained dissolutions of entire settlements, ships vanishing only to reappear with different crews. The pattern is unmistakable to those who know what to look for. "Impossible," said Counselor Mech. "Our security would have detected." "They move slowly," Wilson interrupted. "Patient infiltration over decades. They take a ship, replace the crew with converted duplicates, then use that ship to take another. The process accelerates exponentially once established." Thale studied the pattern, his military training recognizing the strategy. "They've been establishing forward positions. This isn't random. It's preparation for a larger invasion." Wilson nodded grimly. "Exactly. And based on our analysis, they've already infiltrated multiple levels of Council security." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. "How high does the infiltration go?" Vrax finally asked. Admiral Kane stepped forward. "We can't be certain. But our scans detect trace void radiation signatures from 3 individuals in this room right now." Chaos erupted. Council guards drew weapons. Accusations flew across the chamber. Thale instinctively moved toward his crew, unsure who to trust. "Enough." Vrax's voice amplified through the chamber systems. "Director Wilson, what evidence supports these claims?" Wilson activated a handheld device. "This detector can identify void radiation at the cellular level. We've developed it based on our historical encounters." After tense negotiations, all present agreed to scanning. The results confirmed Wilson's claim. 2 minor delegates and 1 council security officer tested positive. When confronted, they attacked with inhuman strength, their skin splitting to reveal metallic implants beneath. Human security personnel neutralized them with weapons that disrupted their neural patterns. Those weren't full conversions yet, Kane explained as the bodies were secured. Just early-stage infiltrators. The fully converted are far more dangerous and nearly undetectable without our specialized equipment. Thale watched the proceedings with growing dread. If they've reached the council itself, then nowhere is safe, Reed finished. Commander, this infection spreads through all levels of society before the main force arrives. Based on the pattern we've detected, the collective is preparing for their primary invasion within months. The council chamber, normally filled with debate and procedure, fell silent as the reality sank in. We need immediate action, Thale said, addressing both the council and the humans. Full scans of all government facilities, military installations, and major population centers. Such scans would cause panic. Councillor Mech objected. Better panic than assimilation, Wilson replied coldly. We've seen entire civilizations fall because they refuse to acknowledge the threat until too late. Admiral Kane stepped forward. We propose a joint operation, human detection technology combined with council forces. Operation Sundering. We identify and remove void infiltrators while preparing defenses against their main fleet. Thale noted how quickly the humans had prepared this proposal, almost as if they had anticipated the Council's discovery of the threat. It raised questions about how long humanity had known about the collective's return. As the Council reluctantly approved the operation, Thale caught Reed watching him. Her expression suggested she understood his suspicions. We'll talk later, Commander, she said quietly. There's more you need to know. The Joint Command Center established aboard the human dreadnought Valiant hummed with activity. Screens displayed real-time updates from across Council space as mixed teams of human and Council forces conducted sweeps for void infiltrators. Commander Thale stood before the central war table, studying the tactical display with Captain Reed at his side. In the 2 weeks since Operation Sundering began, they had uncovered more infiltration than anyone had imagined possible. Another cell discovered on Telos Prime, Reed noted, pointing to a flashing indicator. That's the 4th major colony world compromised. Thale's scales darkened with concern. The pattern suggests they've been building toward something. These aren't random infiltrations. They're strategic positions. Admiral Kane joined them, his face grim. We've decoded communications from captured infiltrators. The main collective fleet is already on its way, a month out at most. The Council must be informed immediately, Thale said. They've been informed, Kane replied. But half the Council remains skeptical despite our evidence. They've approved defensive preparations but rejected our more aggressive recommendations. Reed exchanged a glance with Kane before turning to Thale. Commander, there's something you need to see, something we've kept restricted until now. She led Thale to a secure chamber deep within the Valiant. Inside stood a sealed containment field, and within it floated what appeared to be a small black sphere about 1 meter in diameter. What is this? Thale asked. A void core, Reed explained. The central processing node for a collective hive cluster. We recovered it during our return journey to Council space. The sphere pulsed with an inner light that seemed to absorb rather than emit illumination. Thale felt an instinctive revulsion. These cores coordinate their converted forces, Reed continued. Destroy a core, and any converted beings connected to it become inert, but the collective protects them fiercely. You fought them before, Thale stated rather than asked. Reed nodded. For thousands of years, they nearly destroyed humanity once. We had to become something else to survive them, something many Council races might find disturbing. Before Thale could ask what she meant, an alarm blared through the ship. They rushed back to the command center where chaos had erupted. Report, Kane demanded. Multiple void vessels have emerged from hyperspace near Arction IV, a human officer responded. They've bypassed our early warning network somehow. Arction IV. Thal's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. There are 3 billion beings on that world. Kane was already issuing orders. All available ships to Arction system. Prepare jump protocols. The nearest Council fleet is 6 hours away. Thal noted, checking the tactical display. We'll be there in 20 minutes, Kane replied. Thal stared at him. That's impossible. No drive system can. Ours can. Reed interrupted. But there's a reason we haven't shared this technology with the Council yet. The battle above Arction IV defied all military doctrine Thal had ever studied. The human fleet arrived through what they called fold space. Not hyperspace, but something that seemed to bend reality itself. Their 15 ships materialized directly among 30 Void Collective vessels that had begun planetary bombardment. From the Seeker, which had arrived through conventional hyperspace hours later, Thal watched in awe and horror as the humans engage. Human weapons didn't simply destroy enemy ships. They unmade them. Beams of energy that seemed to unravel matter. Missiles that created brief, controlled singularities. Fighter craft that moved in ways that ignored inertia. They're protecting the population centers, Lena reported from her station. The human ships are taking positions as shields. 3 human vessels were heavily damaged in the process, but they continued fighting even as sections of their hulls were torn away. When a massive collective ship broke through toward the planet's surface, the damaged human cruiser Defiant deliberately collided with it, both vessels erupting in a blinding explosion that somehow remained contained rather than devastating the planet below. When Council reinforcements finally arrived, the battle was already over. 27 Void vessels destroyed. 3 human ships lost. Arction IV saved, but at a cost that made the Council representatives pale. The humans don't fight like any species I've ever seen, Thal told his first officer as they surveyed the aftermath. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. They use weapons that should be beyond theoretical limits. Captain Reed's voice came through his communicator, sounding tired but resolved. Now you understand, Commander. We didn't become feared across the galaxy because we were conquerors. We became feared because when fighting the Void, we had to become as merciless as they are. As Thal watched recovery teams at work, he realized the ancient warnings about humanity hadn't been wrong, just incomplete. They weren't to be feared for their aggression, but for what necessity had forced them to become. The emergency council session convened in the midst of crisis. Reports flooded in from across council space. Void collective forces had launched simultaneous attacks on 7 major systems. The elegant council chamber, normally a place of measured debate, now resembled a war room. Commander Thal stood at attention before the full assembly, his formal report on the Battle of Arction IV complete. The silence that followed weighed heavy in the air. These human weapons violate 17 different council treaties. Councillor Mech finally stated, his metallic exoskeleton reflecting the chamber's lights. Treaties created specifically to prevent the kind of destruction we witnessed during the ancient conflicts. High Councillor Vrax raised a translucent hand for silence. Commander Thal, in your professional assessment, could Archon IV have been saved without human intervention? Thal met the ancient being's gaze steadily. No, Counselor. By the time our forces arrived, the planet would have been lost. 3 billion lives were saved by human actions. At what cost? Demanded the Zeth representative, rising from her seat. Their weapons tear at the fabric of space-time itself. The aftereffects could damage entire regions of space for centuries. The chamber doors opened as Admiral Kane entered, accompanied by Captain Reed. Neither had been invited to this session. Forgive our intrusion, Kane said, his voice carrying authority despite his relative calm. But there's no time for debate. The Void Collective's main fleet has been detected approaching the Nexus system. Gasps and murmurs spread through the chamber. Nexus Prime, the Council capital, home to over 20 billion beings from across the galaxy. Impossible, Vrax whispered. Our defense grid would have detected. Your defense grid has been compromised, Reed interrupted, activating a holographic display. We've identified 37 key security officers across your command structure who were converted. They've been systematically disabling early warning systems for months. Thale watched the council members' reactions: shock, disbelief, and growing fear. The evidence was overwhelming. We have 24 hours before their fleet arrives, Kane continued. Our forces are prepared to defend Nexus Prime, but we need full authorization to deploy all necessary measures. You mean your forbidden weapons, Mech stated flatly. I mean the only weapons proven effective against the Collective, Kane corrected. This isn't about politics anymore. It's about survival. The council erupted into heated argument. Some demanded human expulsion from council space despite the crisis. Others advocated full cooperation. Through it all, Thale observed Captain Reed standing quietly beside Admiral Kane, her eyes tracking each speaker with calculated assessment. The council will recess for 1 hour to consider this information, Vrax finally announced, silencing the chamber. As the representatives filed out, Reed approached Thale. They still don't fully understand what they're facing, she said quietly. Can you blame them? Thale replied. Your methods at Arch and Ivy were extreme. Reed's expression hardened. You've only seen a fraction of what the Void does to captured worlds, Commander. We've witnessed entire civilizations converted, billions of thinking beings turned into nothing but biological components in their hive mind. And that justifies any action? Thale asked. Not any action, she answered, just necessary ones. Their conversation was interrupted by a deafening alarm. The chamber's emergency systems activated, blast shields sealing all exits. Proximity alert announced the automated system. Unknown vessels have entered the Nexus system. Defensive grid offline. Evacuation protocols initiated. Counselor Vrax rushed back into the chamber, his normally composed features twisted with panic. They're here already. The reports were wrong, or deliberate misinformation. Kane was already on his communicator. All human vessels, immediate combat deployment. Priority Alpha. Nexus Prime defense pattern. The main display showed the situation developing in orbit. Dozens of massive void ships approaching the planet, their black hulls absorbing sensor scans. Against them, 14 human vessels moved into formation, hopelessly outnumbered. They can't win, Thale said, the tactical reality clear to his military mind. No, Reed agreed quietly, but they can buy time for evacuations. Vrax approached them, his earlier suspicion replaced by desperate hope. Captain Reed, your ships are already committing to full defense, she finished for him, despite your council not yet reaching a decision about us. The chamber fell silent as the reality sank in. The humans were sacrificing their vessels to protect a council that had, until now, treated them with suspicion and mistrust. Why? Mech asked, genuine confusion in his mechanical voice. Kane's answer was simple. Because that's what we do. That's who we are. And that's why the legends warned you about us. On the display, the human ships engaged the Void Fleet, brilliant flashes marking the beginning of a battle that would determine the fate of the galactic capital, and perhaps reveal the true meaning behind the ancient warnings about humanity. The observation deck of the Council emergency bunker offered a clear view of the battle raging in orbit above Nexus Prime. Commander Thale stood transfixed beside Captain Reed, watching as human vessels threw themselves against the overwhelming Void Collective fleet. They're using Formation Beta 7, Reed explained, her voice oddly calm despite the destruction unfolding before them, designed to draw fire away from the evacuation corridors. Thale's military training allowed him to recognize the strategy and its cost. The human ships were deliberately placing themselves in the most dangerous positions, absorbing devastating attacks meant for civilian transports fleeing the planet. Your vessels can't sustain this, he said quietly. Reed nodded. We know. We just need to hold long enough. On the main display, the human dreadnought Valiant took a direct hit that tore through its midsection. Rather than retreat, it pressed forward, driving deeper into the enemy formation. Admiral Kane is on that ship, Thale realized. Yes, Reed confirmed. He insisted on leading from the front. High Counselor Vrax approached them, his translucent form seeming more fragile than ever. The evacuation is 30% complete. We need at least 2 more hours. Reed's communicator activated. Admiral Kane's face appeared, his bridge filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. Captain Reed, execute Protocol Omega, Kane ordered. Authorization Kane 7 Delta 9. Reed stiffened. Sir, that protocol is our only option now, Kane interrupted. The Collective's main seed ship has been identified. We won't get another chance. She swallowed hard. Understood, Admiral. The connection ended. Reed turned to Thale and Vrax, her expression resolute. You need to clear all Council ships from sectors 4 through 9 immediately. Why? What is Protocol Omega? Thale demanded. Instead of answering, Reed activated her communicator again. All human vessels, acknowledge Omega Protocol. Convergence in 6 minutes. The remaining human ships began disengaging from their individual battles, taking heavy damage as they maneuvered toward a specific point in space. The massive Void Seed ship, nearly twice the size of any other vessel, floated at the center of their formation. Whatever you're planning, Vrax said urgently, we have Council ships in that sector that cannot evacuate in time. Reed's eyes flashed with pain and determination. Then I'm sorry for what's about to happen to them. Before Thale could intervene, the human ships formed a perfect circle around the seed ship. Their engines flared brilliantly, then went dark. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, reality itself seemed to buckle. A sphere of distorted space expanded from the human formation, engulfing the seed ship and dozens of void vessels. Inside this sphere, light bent in impossible ways. Ships stretched and compressed as if time and space were being rewritten. What have you done? Vrax whispered in horror. Fold space collapse. Reed answered, her voice hollow. We've created a localized rupture in space-time. Everything inside will be removed from our reality. Thale stared at her. Your own ships are the anchor points for the collapse. It was the only way. As they watched, the distortion sphere contracted violently. When it vanished, nothing remained. No human ships, no void vessels, just empty space where a battle had raged moments before. The effect on the remaining void fleet was immediate. The smaller vessels drifted aimlessly, their coordination lost. The larger ones began emergency jumps to hyperspace, retreating in disarray. The seed ship contained their central consciousness for this invasion force, Reed explained. Without it, they can't maintain cohesion. Silence fell over the observation deck as the implications became clear. The human fleet had sacrificed itself completely to save Nexus Prime. 3 days later, Commander Thale stood in the partially restored council chamber. The emergency session had one item on its agenda: the formal recognition of humanity's sacrifice and their status in the galaxy moving forward. As Thale completed his testimony, an elderly council archivist approached the central platform, carrying an ancient data crystal. High Counselors, I have discovered the complete record of the human warnings, the archivist announced. The fragments we possessed were incomplete, deliberately altered thousands of years ago. He activated the crystal. A holographic message appeared, showing a being from an extinct species. Let this record serve as warning should humanity ever return. The ancient message began, just as Thale had read in the fragments. But it continued, not because they are to be feared as conquerors, but because their return would herald the reemergence of the void. Humanity stood as the final barrier between the collective and galactic extinction. Their methods were extreme, their sacrifices absolute. They did not fight as we fight, for glory or territory. They fought as guardians, willing to unmake themselves to save others. If humanity returns, it means the darkness returns as well. Trust them, for they alone know how to stand against the coming void. The chamber fell silent as the message ended. Captain Reed, now the senior surviving human officer, stepped forward. "Our mission has never changed," she said simply. "For 50,000 years, we've prepared to face the void again. We became what we needed to become. We accept the fear our methods inspire, because that fear is less terrible than the alternative." High Counselor Vrax rose from his throne. The ancient warnings were not warnings against humanity. They were warnings that we would need humanity. "And now?" Thale asked. Reed looked out at the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. "Now we rebuild. The void retreat is temporary. They will return, stronger and more determined. We stand ready to defend the galaxy again, if you'll have us." Vrax's answer came without hesitation. Not as outsiders, but as the guardians the galaxy forgot it needed. As the Council unanimously voted to formally welcome humanity into their alliance, Thale understood at last. The legends had indeed spoken of a species to fear, not because of their capacity for destruction, but because of their willingness to sacrifice everything in defense of life itself. In humanity's return, the galaxy had found not its destroyers, but its most dedicated protectors.